So, the symptom I had, which is probably the same one you're having, is one day I turned my lights on, one side popped up. This side came all the way up. This side came halfway up and went blah, 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 and then went back down. I could hear the motor moving, so I knew that something was wrong. Went onto the online forums, and a lot of the Esprit owners told me that there was a cog or sprocket inside the headlamp lift motor that had gone bad. Turns out it wasn't quite that bad once I got in there, but then I did open up a can of worms. So I'm going to get into what exactly that can of worms is during this video. Okay, first things first, open the hood, and right down here in front, since we're working on the left side, this is right down in front, this is the light pod right here. And if you look way down in here in the front, there is the steel plate that the motor is bolted to. I don't know if you can see the motor, it's black, so it's hard to see. And there's also right here, I don't know if you can see this or not, there is like a stabilizer plate that's around the motor and bolted to the body right here too. So you have to take this out, which is a nut, and first thing you want to do, well, actually the first thing you want to do here, sorry my hand, first thing you want to do is remove this so you have a little bit better access. So we're going to do that real quick. Don't lose these little plastic nut things. All right, pop that off. There you go, and it's got a lot of warnings. Stuff right there, avoid risk of injury, blah blah blah, brake system. So yeah, you don't want to mess with all of this stuff, but it does give you a little bit more room. So when you get down in there, and before you take all of these parts off, you'll want to disconnect your electrical. This is the only cable you need to disconnect. That's the only electrical cable there is. So the first thing you want to do is remove this strut, this rod that pushes the light up. And once you do that, the light's going to pop down. It's just going to settle down in place. Don't worry. Then you've got to remove these. Actually, you need to remove this arm. I don't know. This is the arm. This is connected to the motor, and that is an arm that pushes that rod up. So you want to disconnect this rod, then disconnect this arm. I don't know if you can really see it. There it is. You can disconnect that arm from the motor, so you want to take that off. Then you've only got 3 bolts here, here, and here to undo, and the motor will essentially just drop off. And you also have to undo that little strut that's holding it on. You can just undo it here. You don't have to undo it here. There's no need to try and take this plate out. You can leave that plate in there, so you don't need to take it out. So once you do that, it drops out, and then you can, it doesn't look like a lot of space, but there's a little space underneath here. You can kind of twist, you can twist the motor out. Okay, now that you've got that little bolt out holding that arm, you can actually finagle it out under that hole, around behind that plate. So you don't have to worry about taking the whole plate out. See, there it comes. Just takes a little work, a little perseverance, and twists and turns, and well, as I said, and a little more turning. There's the motor. Bingo! There it is. This is a 1994 Lotus Esprit headlamp pod pop-up motor, and I believe it's the same motor used in all the V8s and most of the 90s models, if not all of the 90s models. And this plate is what it's connected to inside the front of the nose of the Esprit. You don't need to take this plate off to take the motor out, which is really good, at least on the left-hand side. That's the motor I had problems with. So this is a spare part that I ordered, and it came with the plate. these are almost identical to the Pontiac ones. In fact, they're made by GM. The only difference is these 3 screw holes are down here. So you can order one that looks identical. It's the same spec, but the mounting screws are on the bottom. I suppose if you were to have a motor that blew out, because they don't make these anymore for Lotus, you could figure out a way to drill your own holes here and mount them on the bottom if you had to. Anyway, the motor is pretty robust, so you don't need to replace the motor very much. This part is where you have the problems, and I'm going to open that up and show you. There it is. Now you can see, I have to finagle this off. You know, it's not too sensitive. There it is. There's the washer. And this is the washer that sits on there. And as you can see, here's the problem. You see that dust? That is not from this wheel. It is from what's underneath. Now comes the fun part. This does not want to come out. I've seen videos of people fixing the Pontiac and Fiero ones, and they just lift this right out, and it just doesn't lift out. Part of the reason, there is the screw cog is in here that turns this, and also it sits in there really tight, so it doesn't want to come out. Okay, so I've tried and I cannot get this out. So that leaves me with the option of taking the motor itself out to take this little screw wheel that's running the cog. So to do that, you take these 2 screws out, and you're going to open up a whole can of worms by doing that. And I'll show you what happened. This is what I did, and I'm doing this to show you because I know, because I screwed up my motor. That's why I ordered this, found this used part. So we got this off here. So up until now, before I take this completely apart and show you the can of worms, this little thing, this is the replacement motor. This is my original. This is the cap. This is used to manually twist the headlights up when the car's not on if you need to. So this just pops off, right? Now that you've taken that off and you've undone these, pull this out gently, and you'll hear that click. That's because you just opened the can of worms. Now you'll pull that out, and there's your screw thing. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but right here is one of your cans of worms. It's a tiny, tiny little spring, and there's your can of worms right there. These little magnets, these actuators that have this embedded copper wiring in them, if you screw up that copper wiring and it comes out, I don't know how you get those back in there. So these little, there's two of these little things. They look like coils or springs. Sorry, there's 2 of these little springs, one here and one here, and they go, and the magnet goes like this in front of them, if you can see that. So like that. So they're designed to push that magnet out when electricity is passed through to turn the motor. So they sit up against this little, I don't know what you call it, solenoid or whatever. But these things are tiny. These things are tiny, and they look like they are, they look like they came out of a ballpoint pen, and they are hell to lose. So don't lose them. So actually, I'm going to take my thing here, the cover, I'm going to put them inside there, as they will come out. See, that one's already coming out. So be careful, pull out. See, I just popped out. Where in the heck did it go now? It just popped out. I see, I lost it. Where'd it go? Oh, it's down in here, so you have to be very careful. So there it is. There it is. It was down in there. So put those right there for safekeeping, or you can put them in a Ziploc bag for safekeeping. Set them aside. Look, and if you notice, once that is out, this just fell out. It just fell right out. And here is where we run into the reason that these things need to be fixed. If you notice in here, this gunk, if you can see this gunk, it's disgusting. It is plastic powder, pulverized plastic parts mixed with the grease that goes in there, and it gets everywhere. But the interesting thing is, it's not this cog that has gone bad. It's actually fairly cheap nylon cog, but this is not what's gone bad. And if we can just take this off here from this metal part, there you go, boom. Look at that, all that crap that came out. That's it right there. The torque pins that go here have disintegrated. They have all but disintegrated. Look at that. That is torque pin powder. That means that they are no good. So actually this thing is okay. It's just the torque pins. You can order a new part. They make there's a guy on eBay who has really good quality ones. I've seen brass ones. I've seen aluminum ones. Brass ones are going to be heavy, and of course Lotus is all about lightness. So you can do brass, you can do aluminum, which is lighter, or you can reorder a vinyl one. Actually, this one doesn't need to be replaced. All we need to do is clean it and clean this out from all of that gunk and grease mixed with powder, which I'm going to do right now. Okay, so now that I got this nice and clean, you can pull the motor out, and it's magnetized, so it feels like it wants to just pop back in because it's magnetized, but there's nothing holding it. So pull this out, just gently pull that magnet and it'll let go, and there it is. And those washers and everything just kind of came loose right there. If you can see them down in there, because it's basically it's magnetized. So you can pull that out. There's one of the washers, and there's a this one has little ball bearings, so you want to be careful with those. Now this is the motor. So this goes here, that goes there. The little ball bearing thing goes on that, and it's sandwiched in with those. Don't lose those. Now set your motor aside. Set that aside. We want to clean all of this crap out of here too. And now I'll show you something else I just realized. I don't know if you can see that little, right there is a ball bearing that goes right here. It goes right on the tip there, and you can lose that fairly easily. So I'm going to try and pick this out. It's stuck in there with all that crap. There it is. I just managed to get it out. It's stuck in there with that gunk. And just to be safe, I'm going to keep the gunk on it so it'll stick, and I'm going to put it right back there. Make sure you set that sucker aside. Watch out. And now I'm going to clean all this gunk out of here. And be very careful of these, because that is where I screwed up my motor. So these little things, be very careful, but you can see the dust in there and the gunk from that grease. So I'm going to clean that out real quick. So now I'm going to show you. These are the torque pins. And these are the torque pins, and these turn into this in here. That's what makes the engine, the motor move. That's where literally where the rubber meets the road. So when you buy new torque pins, and you can get them, make sure you get the best quality you can find. There are some out there that are really cheap plastic. They should be high I don't know what you call it, high impact vinyl or something. These are good ones. Make sure it comes with gear grease. The OEM gear grease, don't use axle grease or lithium grease. You want to make sure you get the right grease, and it should come with it. Be fairly generous about it. You want to put this in here, and you can see the grooves where those torque pins go in here, and you can see the groove here where the torque pins go. So you want to put some grease there, and there, and there. Then you take your torque pin, which just got all messed up. I'm going to clean it good. Take your torque pin, the grease will hold it right there. Take your other torque pin, the grease will hold it right there and right there. That's all there is to it. Now, all you do is take this, and this comes down like so, and you want to line it up so the torque pins fall into those little slots, and just push it in. Pop. There it is. Okay, so here is, this came with a new washer for this. So I'm going to use this new gasket, not washer, gasket, and I'm going to take a little bit of this grease, and I'm going to run it here just to make the gasket stick. So it goes.
I'm trying to be in the video.
You are in the video, my dear. Making sure that there's plenty of grease around the cog, and you can be pretty liberal with it here. Don't be afraid. You want this to be, as they say, a well-oiled machine. Like so. It goes right there. That's the long side. And it go, push it down, pop. Right into place there.
No, there's poop in the sand. Look it.
Oh, there's poop in the sand?
Yeah.
Oh no.
I want Rudy and I want Rudy.
Yeah. So my next video will be on how to get poop out of sand.
That's so funny.
Now, we put these little buggers back on here. Okay.
You're gonna be famous.
You think I'm gonna be famous?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got it just tight in case I need to take it off. So I didn't really tighten it. I got it just barely tightened. So now here comes the fun part. This little bastards. These little bastardos. So, gotta take, there's a gunk in there. Okay, push that in there. I don't know if you can see this. I hope you can see it. Push that in there. And the other one goes up in here. Like so. These little things, these go back. And there's nothing to hold them in there except your fingers, so be very careful. And like so, to push these, I don't know if you can see it, it's a little rough. So there you go, pushing it back. God, see, you can see this is where you can really screw up this thing. Okay, so I'm actually holding, I'm not doing a good job. So I'm holding these two here like so. Like that's not easy. So take your motor, drop it down in there like that.
Are you making another video?
I am, and you can see these want to close up on you, and that's where we're running into all kinds of problems. And you can't be too rough with these copper things because, so I gotta pull that back out. This is the problem. This is the can of worms I was talking about, because you certainly don't want to screw these magnets up. The cable connecting and enough to get the thing in there. That's the bear. Okay, so what I'm gonna do,
Daddy's working on something.
yeah, in fact, all right, here we go. I'm making a video too.
Oh,
Father-in-law is gonna help me. You want to do me a favor?
I do.
Yeah, weird angle. There you
Okay.
go. There it is.
Okay.
Now I can let go of that thing. It is in place.
Okay.
You can see those. It's in place.
Good.
So you have to have a third hand.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Lucas, can I use
I think I
that?
still have it.
No.
My toolbox.
There it is. And it sits like so. Like that.
Uh-huh.
In the car. So there we go.
Can I do the other?
We're back.
Okay.
Now I gotta put this back on the end here, so turn it as you need to, and it should turn. Yep, and it turns.
Okay.
Now we're gonna put this back
Close
in.
to your car.
As you can see, this headlight's down a little bit from the other one. And
That's
there's
a long one.
my daughter about to run into my car with her bike, and so you see that's down. Okay. So get this back in there. There's the plate. I don't know if you can see the plate is right there. That's the plate, so I didn't take it out. So I left this part on there, so it'll stay in place. So you gotta finagle this back in under there, and it's doable. It's just, you gotta get it in the right way. And I can't do this while holding the video. So, what did you say? There it is. Okay, so okay, so I got it. All right. I laid it down and then stuck it under that part. And, okay. It's hard to do while holding this video, but I'm going to kind of leave it to your imagination as to how to finagle that back in there. Okay, got it back in place. Got it back in place, and heaven help guys with huge hands, because there it is. Reconnect your electrical, or you can actually wait till you get it in place. In fact, I'm going to work to get this back in place here. I wish I had a white car, because then you'd be able to see much better. Anyway, so then you got to work in there to get those little screws back in on. One thing I forgot to mention, before you can actually put this thing back on the nut, when this light pod is down, it's disconnected, the light pod is down, this is going to be way too long. So you have to kind of, you can get your hand in there and pop that light pod back up, but it's hard because it can get wedged. So all you need is a gentle nudge. It's nothing really strong. What I use is this. I use these extra long handle pliers, and they have a soft rubber handle, so it's not going to damage the car in any way. And I just put it down here and give it a little nudge, and that light will pop. The light pod will pop right back up. And while you're holding that, you can use your other hand to put this onto the little bolt sticking out there. Hope that makes sense.